I'm Leo Ward for Kit Guru. This laptop is the Gigabyte Aero 15. It is now running 3D Mark Time Spy. The hardware inside the laptop is kind of the new normal for a mid-range thin light laptop. So it's got a Core i7-7700HQ, it's got GTX 1060 graphics, it's got 16 gig of DDR4 memory, and it's got a 512 gigabyte SSD. All good stuff. The screen is full HD. Where it departs slightly from the norm is that it's thin, light and quite small. The screen is however 15.6 inches on the diagonal rather than 14 inches. In many respects, this laptop is very similar to Razer Blade, which is 14. This is 15.6, and they've managed that trick of squeezing a bigger screen into a smaller chassis by having a really slender bezel on the sides and the top. It's about 5mm in width. That screen is slightly unusual in that it uses a technology called AAS, which is apparently azimuthal anchoring switch. And no, I hadn't heard of it either. I had to look up what AAS meant, and I found one other instance of a screen or display that uses that technology. At first, I thought possibly it was a TN technology, but it has a very wide viewing angle. So it's one of these IPS-like technologies, although it is not IPS. It's not got the inky blackness on. Very nice, perfectly acceptable, not IPS quality in my opinion. Also, the coating is slightly shiny, so it's not super shiny, it's not super matte, it's in between the two. Anyway, panel, no problem whatsoever. The chassis is just under 20mm in thickness, 19.9mm. There's no way that number's a coincidence. And the weight is 2.1 kilos. It is thin, it is light, but despite that, they've crammed in a whole bunch of ports and connectors. So on this side, we've got two USB 3s, we've also Thunderbolt 3 Type-C, and we've got a card reader. Power jack is here as well. On that side, we've got mini display port, HDMI, and another USB 3. It all works very nicely. There's nothing I don't like about this laptop. One of the headline features is it has an LED illuminated keyboard. The keyboard is, each individual key is illuminated. It's controlled by Gigabyte's own software. When the laptop arrived, actually, for some reason that software wasn't installed. It doesn't take any time at all to install it. And until that moment, the keyboard was effectively just a dark keyboard. Switch on the lights, all happy, and you can pick any number of patterns and modes and so on. I've just gone for a kind of a red thing going around and around. Rainbow marquee and such like, they are leery in the extreme. And you can also kind of, if you're having fun, you can replicate it so you can have the Gigabyte control software on the screen doing the same thing as the keyboard if you want to go for real for broke. I'm slightly impressed that they've managed to squeeze all those USB ports and a full-size Ethernet into such a slender chassis, but they have, and that's good. Sometimes you get thin and lights and they have a USB dongle for Ethernet. The Wi-Fi in this is really good. It's Intel 802.11ac, works very solidly, perfectly happy about that. There are not exactly signs of cost cutting, that would be harsh. So for example, that screen, the fact it's this AAS technology. The SSD inside, for example, is a Lighton CX2 8B512, which is snappy. That appears to be an OEM version of a Plextor M8PE, which has a Marvel controller. It works perfectly well, no problems whatsoever, but it's not necessarily high up the list of SSDs I go hunting for. I mean, most of us will say, you know, is it a Samsung, and you kind of go from there. And in terms of pricing, it does a very solid job. So this model is a few pence under £1,900, which interestingly puts it exactly into Razer Blade territory. So if you buy a Razer Blade with a 256GB SSD, it's £1,800. You buy it with a 512 gig, as this laptop has, it's £2,000. So we're absolutely fighting in that same territory. The cooling inside this laptop is interesting, although at first glance it appears entirely conventional. So you've got heat pipes, you've got the CPU and the GPU both require cooling because obviously a Core i7 and a GTX 1060 are both proper silicon. But there is something unusual about it, which is that this slot along here is an air intake. The exhaust is on the bottom. Now, on the one hand, that makes a lot of sense because the exhaust fans, you've got this huge, great grill area, which means you're not firing the air through a nozzle as you are if you're coming out to the side or the back of a slender chassis, so you don't get that zzz noise, and that's a good thing. Balanced against that, you have to ask yourself, if you put the thing down on soft bedding and some such to and block up the vents, what's going to happen? The answer there is likely to be nothing very good. I've used the laptop as a laptop on my lap. It does not get super toasty. Temperatures inside the thing are entirely acceptable, entirely conventional. The CPU hits 90 under extreme load. The GPU hits 83 under extreme load. These are figures we're used to seeing, so I have no problem with any of that. Having said that, it is efficient, this laptop. So the battery under continual looping PC mark stress test, 3 hours 36 minutes. You can double that for real world. You're talking 7+ hours. You are talking all day battery life. So this is not a juice monster that's going to take all your battery and turn it into heat. It does not do that. But that cooling system is interesting. I'm just going to run a noise test to finish up this review and demonstrate exactly how it behaves. And now switching over to AIDA64, which is a synthetic stress test, and is going to just peg the CPU and GPU to the max. We'll quickly overheat the thing. Stepping up, and up, and up, and up. And that is the max. And there we have it, Gigabyte Aero 15 under a decent heavy load doing 3D mark is really quiet. Stress the backside out of the thing with AIDA64. You can hear it quite clearly, but compared to many laptops, it's absolutely acceptable, no problem whatsoever. So 7 stages of cooling, 6 and 7 allowed. I don't think you'll generally get over 5 when you're gaming. I certainly didn't during my testing, so all in all, a success. My only question mark over the cooling is the fact the exhaust vents are on the bottom, therefore they have the potential to be blocked. Clearly, if you use it on a desk or indeed on your lap, no problem whatsoever. But it's a novel thing to do and it works very well. So overall, this is an interesting laptop. Also, it comes in 3 versions, orange, green and black. They sent me black. The green and the orange look absolutely mind-blowing. The black is just black. So that's a shame. I don't quite get the thing of it's a business kind of thin and light laptop with GTX 1060 graphics, because which businessman needs GTX 1060 graphics? They can live surely on Intel integrated graphics and therefore get more battery out of the thing, but there we go, such is life. But in terms of the spec of the thing, I like it a lot. In terms of the feel, the lightweight, it's very successful. Overall, I have almost no problems whatsoever with this laptop. It's not a full bling luxury razor blade kind of laptop, but it's got an awful lot going for it. If you like this video, thumbs up. If you don't, thumbs down. If you want more from Git Guru, click to subscribe. I'm Leo Waldock. This is Gigabyte Aero 15.